Hello, I'm Andrea Bonime-Blanc. I'm co-author of the new piece that you're about to read with my friend and colleague Vikram Sharma, president of CRISP USA. The two of us have written this piece called Managing Risk in the Age of Accelerating Change and Digital Chatter. Long title, but it's important to understand the components of what we're talking about, and I'll break it down for you. The subtitle is Your Boardroom Prepared? So in other words, there's this cutting edge set of issues out there, which we call digital chatter, which can become a major risk or a major crisis if it's not attended to properly. And so both management and the board need to pay attention to it. So what we try to do in this article is really give you a sense of the context of the risk that we're talking about in this age of accelerating change. Which is only accelerated and amplified further in the last year through the pandemic times. And really, the convergence of all these different serious events triggered by the global pandemic. And so boards especially, we believe, are not properly prepared. Management, chief communications officers, chief risk officers, perhaps are paying attention to this, at least via social media, listening, and that sort of thing. But not really, and not as early sort of warning prepared as they should be. And certainly boards, I think, are further behind. So the intent of our piece is really to give the sort of the who, what, why, and how of digital chatter, and making sure that boards understand how to be prepared in advance of these digital chatter sources becoming a major problem for the company. So let me give you a sense of what we're talking about, the kinds of risks and crises that can materialize from digital chatter. We've all heard about disinformation, misinformation, fake news, misrepresentation, misleading content. This is one of the big plagues of our time. And so that is one of the forms of digital chatter that risk and crises that can come out of digital chatter. The content that creates an illusion of association with extremist views is another potential risk or crisis. Missed adverse events and compliance failures, misinterpreted or polarizing statements, violence potentially against employees, leaders, brand VPs, even board members, customers, or the physical sites. So these are all potential risks and crises that can materialize from digital chatter. And if you don't know how to monitor that digital chatter, you won't know that it's coming until it hits you. So there's a number of different things that can happen because of an unmonitored, evaluated set of risks that are sort of embedded in digital chatter. So what is digital chatter? So digital chatter is sort of the summation of conversations that happen online that take place both on the surface web and the deep web. And we know about the surface web because that's where most of us live, but the deep web also contains a lot of this kind of digital chatter. And so it includes sort of looking at open or indexed and closed or dark social media channels, as well as forums and messaging apps. And it's something that is growing exponentially in volume, in variety, and velocity, etc. So there's so much going on, and we just have sort of the tip of the iceberg that we think about or that we know about. For example, in 2020, in an October 2020 study by Statista, the number of people using social media is more than 4.14 billion, or more than half of our world population. At any given minute of any given day, Facebook users share 150,000 messages and upload 147,000 photos. So we're talking about a volume that is constantly growing. It's constantly becoming, differentiated and different. There's a variety and there's a velocity. So that's the what of digital chatter. I'd also like to sort of point out a few things that we put in this article as well that talk about intentional and unintentional amplifiers of harmful digital chatter. That can include a dissatisfied customer or employee, a celebrity or an influencer, competitive brands that are looking to undercut you, social media users who have done poor research, bad actors with malicious intent, etc. So basically, what happens then, the why, is that attention to digital chatter in this world of accelerated risk is important because it is something that you have to understand at the early stages to be able to deal with it. And it has major reputational risk consequences for you, potentially, as well as financial risks. And if you have been reading any of these studies that have come out, like from Lloyd's and KPMG, they did a corporate brand and reputation value study back in 2020 or 2019. They looked at the reputation value of the corporate brand, and it accounts for 35.3% of the market capitalization of $16.77 trillion in shareholder value. This is for Q1 in 2019 of the world's 15 leading equity market indices. So we're talking about why is it important to understand digital chatter? Because if you don't catch it early, it becomes a potential risk and a potential crisis that then spills into reputational risk, financial impact, and loss of reputation and brand value for your shareholders and other parts of your stakeholder universe. So last but not least, we give advice at the end of our piece on how boards should be looking at this issue of digital chatter and what questions they should be asking their management about what management is doing about digital chatter. And some of the questions we ask are very common sense. For example, is the risk management function looking forward, looking at the horizon, scanning for these kinds of new risks? Or are they just looking backwards? Are they looking at the typical risk register? Is digital chatter being monitored at all within your risk management function and integrated into enterprise risk management? Do you have a cross-functional team that's working together to look at this? Your chief communications officer, your chief risk officer, some legal, maybe HR. Are they kind of giving that full sort of 360 on this issue and then preparing the right kinds of reports, understanding what the consequences are, and then bringing it up to the board? So we have a few more questions in there. We have a few more observations, but we're very happy to share this article with you. We think it's on the cutting edge of a very important set of potential risks and crises that can emanate from this digital chatter black box, so to speak. And we hope you enjoy the article and look forward to hearing comments or questions from our readers. And thank you, Ethical Boardroom, for inviting us to write this piece.